Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. A demoniac who could not speak was brought to Jesus, and when the demon was driven out, the mute man spoke. The crowds were amazed and said, "Nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel." But the Pharisees said, "He drives out demons by the prince of demons." Jesus went around to all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, and curing every disease and illness. At the sight of the crowds, his heart was moved with pity for them, because they were troubled and abandoned, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is abundant, but the laborers are few. So ask the master of the harvest to send out laborers for his harvest." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today is the feast of Saint Benedict. Saint Benedict is the founder of the Benedictine order. He wrote the Rule of Saint Benedict, which distinguishes the Benedictines from all other monastic orders. There's lots of things that you can learn about Saint Benedict. He's an extremely important person, not just in church history, but in the entire history of Western civilization. It's common in our modern age for people to call the Middle Ages the Dark Ages. Right? But St. Benedict and his monks, who followed after him, they're basically responsible for making the Middle Ages anything but Dark Ages. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, there was the fall of the Roman Empire, and in many ways, civilization was crumbling. And all throughout the Middle Ages, there were barbarians coming from outside of Europe who were destroying civilization. And basically, thanks to the monks, that civilization was preserved. All throughout Europe, literacy was almost entirely lost. Many of the knowledge from the ancient world, such as like the writings of Plato and Aristotle and others, it would have never survived if it had not been for the monks and their monasteries. Monasteries became a hub of knowledge and civilization. Monasteries began to be the places that became hospitals, because it was only the monks who were educated in the ways of medicine. It was the monasteries which became the schools, because the monks were the most knowledgeable scholars around. The monasteries became the greatest hub of farming and agriculture, because the monks were trained and learned in the ways of agriculture. Monks, in many ways, all throughout the Middle Ages, were the preservers of civilization. In some ways, many of the things that we take for granted in modernity, we actually should be thankful for those monks in the Middle Ages. Right? St. Benedict is a huge part of that. Now, on this Feast of St. Benedict, I'm also thinking about some nuns that are now in our diocese. So a couple of years ago, we had some religious sisters who came from Colombia, and they live up in Reynolds in our diocese. You've never been to Reynolds? It's a small rural town, and they live up there, and they serve a lot of the different Hispanics in our diocese. And I've been able to spend some time with them, and one of the things that really strikes me about their order is that their charism is basically about human formation. So one of the things that distinguishes these nuns from other religious orders is their emphasis on human formation. What is human formation? Human formation means that it's not just about prayer or study, it's about forming yourself as a human being and making yourself the most attractive version of yourself, so that you might bring other people into the gospel. Right? Other people might want to have what you have. And so these nuns, for example, when they get to the convent, they all learn an instrument. So they all learn how to play music. One of the other things these nuns do is that they are forced to play sports together. In our modern age, right, sports is something that is held in high esteem, so all these nuns, they learn how to play sports. All these nuns learn how to plant gardens and to plant beautiful flowers. The whole idea is teaching these nuns how to create attractive community, how to create beauty, so that they might attract others to their way of life. St. Benedict, when he founded his monasteries, one of the ways that he described them is he said that it was a place of service to the Lord. It was a school of divine service. And that doesn't just mean learning theology, learning about the Bible. It means using all of your humanity to serve the Lord. So learning music, learning literature, learning art, learning crafts and trades, learning construction, right? Learning agriculture, etc., etc. Right? And I would suggest that ultimately one of my dreams for St. Bernard and for every Catholic parish is that we should be imitating this philosophy of St. Benedict. That every parish should be a school of divine service, where theology is learned and taught, but not just theology. That every parish becomes a hub of culture, especially in our modern age, which is becoming so focused on technology, and many ancient trades are being lost. Every parish should be a fosterer of the learning of those trades, especially when it comes to creating beauty. Parishes should be places where people learn music, where people learn art, where people learn how to make statues or stained glass, right, etc., etc. Every parish should be a hub, a school of divine service, and a school of beauty. In our modern age, that's perhaps what modern man longs for more than anything else. We've become such a culture focused on functionality and practicality, and we are losing a sense of beauty. And that could be one of the reasons why there's so much unhappiness in our culture. That even though we have so much material wealth, we are so lacking in beauty, in spiritual depth. Every parish should be a school learning these things, a school of beauty, a school of divine service. And I pray that someday at St. Bernard we might be able to proudly call ourselves just that we are a school of divine service.